Once upon a time, the Davinci Code was one of the fastest-selling novels in the world. Its hero, Robert Langdon, takes the reader on an international journey to find the Holy Grail. Full spoilers, by the way, but it has been out since 2003, so you've had time to read it. The Holy Grail is often the subject of these treasure hunt stories. It's often portrayed as the chalice that Jesus and the disciples drank out of at the Last Supper, and supposedly, allegedly, drinking from it gives you eternal youth or riches or whichever of the legends you want to choose to believe today. And so as a result, many of these treasure hunt stories have been focused around finding this Holy Grail. But the characters in the book argue that this portrayal of the Holy Grail is due to a mix-up in the translation, and that it's not actually referring to the chalice that Jesus drank the blood out of at the Last Supper, but it is actually referring to his blood, as in his bloodline, as in evidence that Jesus and Mary Magdalene had a daughter who then went on to have her own children that started this lineage, and that there is this lineage of people that are descended from Jesus, and they're alive and walking around with us to this very day. Oh, don't look at my mess here. Sorry if you could see that. Instagram versus reality. And of course, this whole thing has been kept secret all of these years because the Catholic Church needs it kept secret. The characters succeed on their journey and do end up finding this evidence of this lineage. That was lightning, sorry. And of course, the last living heir just happens to be the sexy woman that Tom Hanks has been solving this whole riddle with. So you might be wondering, Meredith, what's the point of the video if you just told us what the resolution is, right? Like, that's the mystery. What if I told you that all of that wasn't made up for the book? In fact, what if I told you that it wasn't even a conspiracy theory, but historical fact? And there's this secret society called the Priory of Sion that are dedicated to keeping this whole thing secret. And there's this other secret society that comes out of the Catholic Church called the Opus Dei, whose sole purpose is to find the Priory of Sion and find all the descendants of Jesus and kill them. What if I told you all of that was real? It's not, obviously. But Dan Brown, the author of the Davinci Code, thinks it is. And I think that's hilarious. And not only is the fact that he believed it and all of the hullabaloo that happened after this book came out just like the funniest thing to me ever, but that whole situation ended in a lawsuit where a judge hid a code in his write-up of his judgment that you can use the Fibonacci sequence code from the Davinci Code to decipher, and it just brings me so much joy. You guys, this whole thing brings me so much joy. So I thought, you know, when in Rome, I have not established for you guys that we are in fact in Rome, actually. Check that out. That's Rome. I thought we could go to all the landmarks from the book and talk about this whole thing, and that would be like a really cute and really fun video to film while I was here in Italy. But unfortunately, this video is cursed for multiple reasons. The first being that I did in fact confuse angels and demons and the Davinci Code when I first conceptualized this. And I did all the research into the Dan Brown and him believing the theory side of things before I actually looked back up the plot of the Davinci Code to see what all the landmarks were so we could go to all those places. And unfortunately, it's angels and demons that takes place in Rome. And the Davinci Code actually mostly takes place in France and Britain. And also it's chucking it down out there, I believe they say here in Europe. I don't know if you can tell. It's raining pretty hard. I understand that the thesis for this video makes no sense, okay? I understand that I'm just basically gonna be going to random Roman landmarks and showing them to you, and then we're gonna be talking about the Davinci Code, which does not take place in Rome. But I was too far into the research and too close to the trip to pivot to figure something else out. So this is what we're doing. Guys, this video is so cursed. Should I just give up? It's okay to give up in life, honestly. If you've learned anything from me on this channel, learn that. Sometimes it's okay to give up. But anyway, I'm sticking to it. I'm dedicated. We're gonna do it. I'm gonna bundle up, and I will see you at our first big landmark. Okay, we are at the Spanish Steps. I don't know if it'll focus on that like at all. I don't even know what's famous about these, to be honest. Whatever, you might be wondering, what is this theory that Dan Brown thinks is real? And we've kind of already gone over it, but I thought I'd go over it a little bit more in depth. But the idea being that Jesus and Mary Magdalene got married at one point and had a child, because of course they couldn't have a child out of wedlock. Even if canonically this is a story the Catholic Church would be upset if it got out. They of course would have had to be married to have a child. But anyway, that they got married, had a child, and that child child is obviously a descendant of Jesus then, and children they had and so on and so forth are all descended from Jesus. And that there's this secret society called the Priory of Sion, whose job it is to protect this information, and there are only 4 people in it, but then there's a confusing scene at the end of the movie where there's a bunch of other people. I don't really know who those people are, but there's 4 main ones, and it's their job to protect this information. But there's this rival secret society that's a part of the Catholic Church called the Opus Dei, and it's their job to figure out who's in the Priory of Sion and who the different descendants of Jesus are, and to kill them so that they can keep the secret forever, because obviously if this whole thing were to get out, that would just tear apart the Catholic Church at the seams. But anyway, so this is the big conspiracy theory that the book and then subsequently the movie were based around. And this is the thing that Dan Brown believes is true. And that, like I said, caused all this hullabaloo when the book came out of people proving that it wasn't and all of that. But why? Why does he believe it? Check that out. What's that guy's deal, do you think? Your guess is as good as mine. Was I supposed to look that up? Am I doing all the work for you? So anyway, why did Dan Brown believe this theory? Well, it turns out he's not the one who invented it. He didn't come up with it. There's quite a few books written about this conspiracy theory already. This is, I don't want to say widely believed, but in conspiracy circles was actually already a pretty common one. And there's many books written on it already, including one that's actually referenced in the Davinci Code, called The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail. But that one was actively mentioned by Dan Brown in the Davinci Code as a source on this theory. So he did not invent it. He just read all this stuff and believed it and went on to write the Davinci Code, which to him was a fictionalized discovery of this Holy Grail and all of that. But to him, this information actually is out there and this Holy Grail does exist. So anyway, that's why he believed it. And he wasn't the only one who did before he wrote the book. And then after the book came out, there's like a page at the front where it says everything in here is fact except for the actual events of the novel. And it's all historically accurate. And it led to this whole hullabaloo, as I've been hinting at after the book came out in the early 2000s, of people being like, wait a minute, what? Is any of this true? And as we've already established, no, it is not. Right, that's the Trevi Fountain. This is really great exposure therapy for my fear of filming in public. I feel very uncomfortable right now. But anyway, I keep hinting at this big hubbub that happened when this book came out because everybody was like, wait, this is all factually accurate? And Dan Brown was like, yep, it is, except they're kind of not. And when you start to dig into this, there's actually so much information out there about all that was included in the Davinci Code and how much of it is wrong, that not only have entire books been written surrounding this whole idea, but there's like master posts that you can find of people recommending different books that debunk the Davinci Code. Like there's so many of them that you can read all of them and then make a whole post about which ones you think are worth people's time and which ones aren't. I just think it's really funny. So obviously we're not going to unpack all of that in this video today. Lord knows we're not doing it in the pouring rain outside the Trevi Fountain. But many people put a lot of effort into proving categorically that Dan Brown was incorrect. And not just Dan Brown, but everybody else who believes this whole thing. There are not these warring secret societies fighting over whether or not to make this information public. So obviously, because this has been so thoroughly debunked, there's nobody out there that still believes this, right? Because as we all know, everybody loves to accent believing things that are true and not believing things that are false. We're all really obsessed with that. Guys, Grand Prior, it's real. It was fine earlier. It's so much colder now that it stopped raining for some reason. Coliseum. Check that out. That's crazy. It's only grown colder, so I might not be wet anymore, but I am freezing. And as you can see, the heavens threaten to open any minute. So where we last left it off, I was employing a humor device called sarcasm.
where I said something that obviously wasn't true and we all know it's not true. Obviously, there's still people out there who believe in this crazy conspiracy theory. And one of those people is still, get this, Dan Brown. Although at this point, I'm convinced he's just too far in. Like, imagine if he just came out now and was like, yeah, guys, sorry. Yeah, you know what? Sorry. Yeah, that wasn't true. But I hinted at the beginning that there was a lawsuit involved in all of this, right? So the Davinci Code was one of the fastest growing novels of all time for a while. And if Wikipedia is to be believed, was outsold only by Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix in 2003. So it was everywhere and everybody was talking about the different facts from it and whether or not it was true. And we already talked about how prior to the Davinci Code, there were multiple people who wrote multiple books about this conspiracy theory. One of those people, in fact, two of them, who wrote a book called The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail. The authors sued Dan Brown for copyright infringement. Copyright infringement? I thought this was a true story. I thought this was historical fact. You can't copyright historical fact. Imagine if I wrote a book about the Colosseum and then was like, well, now nobody else can write a book about the Colosseum because I'm the one who did it. Now I own that copyright. Like, no, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But they sued, and so then it led to this giant question of like, do the guys who wrote this book even believe in this, or do they think they made it up? Oh, it's raining again. Oh no, where's my umbrella? More to protect the camera than to protect me. My jacket's also waterproof. Anyway, all of that to say that they sued Dan Brown in Great Britain for copyright infringement. So in the actual court case, the argument that they made was like, yes, the information is historical fact, and of course that happened, and of course all of it is true, and so we actually can't copyright that, but we can copyright the way in which the information was presented. And he copied the way that we presented it, and he even mentioned our book in his book, so it's really, really obvious that he used it as a source. Dan Brown at first actually tried to claim that he did not use it as a source, but again, he directly references it in book, so it's kind of a hard thing to claim, but then basically stuck to, if it's historical fact, nobody can copyright it, so they can't tell me I committed copyright infringement because it's historical fact, because it actually happened, right? And the courts sided with him, obviously. Now, is this whole thing really hilarious? Yes. Does it just tickle me that it happened? Absolutely. But I do agree with the courts on this one. I don't think that the authors of that book can claim copyright infringement because they're claiming the events are historical facts. If you don't want people to steal your idea, then you have to be honest about the fact that you made it up. If you're going to be out here spreading misinformation, then if other people take that misinformation and also spread it, you can't turn around and be like, no, that's my misinformation to spread. How dare you make money off of misinformation that I made up? Like, get out of here. I'm sorry, but it's so funny. It's so funny. And to top it all off, the judge is a massive fan of a specific British naval general, and the court case went over the 100-year anniversary of the sailing of some very famous British ship, and so he hid a commemoration of this into the judgment on the court case that he wrote up, and he used the same Fibonacci sequence code that's used in the Davinci Code, the book, to hide this in his judgment on the case. And so we're going to cut to me in a much warmer and drier environment going through that now.
Hello everybody, what is up? We are home and dry, which means it is time for us to go through this lawsuit. Can everybody see my screen? Am I ever not going to make that joke when I'm recording my screen for a video? Anyway, shout out to WIPO magazine. WIPO, I don't know how you're supposed to say it. And they wrote up this article for the court case that was part of my research for the video. This final paragraph elicited a level of curiosity in me I don't think I've ever experienced before. It says, intriguingly, the judge, Mr. Justice Peter Smith, hid a coded message of his own in the judgment. Using a simple code, including a keyword based on the Fibonacci sequence employed in the Davinci Code, the judge's message refers to a World War I British admiral. The judge subsequently explained that the admiral was a hero of his and that the trial coincided with the centenary of the launch of one of the admiral's ships. I believe that means a 100-year anniversary. Never let it be said that English judges are staid and boring. So anyway, this led me down quite a journey. And I will say that if you go to where the judgment is on the WIPO website, I'm just gonna go with WIPO, I don't know if it's WIPO. I admittedly did not read this whole 43-page thing, but I was searching up keywords and I could not find this code, and I was really confused. But it turns out this event is famous enough that it has its own Wikipedia page. And apparently in the original text of the judgment, there were letters italicized. Luckily, Wikipedia cites their sources, so they actually have it on the Wayback Machine where it actually does have the italicized letters. Let's break it all down, right? So essentially in the judgment, there were a bunch of letters italicized like this. So here you can see in the word claimant, it has the M italicized. Here it says is that, and both the I and the T are italicized. There's an H here, right? And for the first about 40-ish pages of the judgment, there's just random letters italicized like this. And this is what it looks like if you put them all together in a row. And if you scroll down to paragraph 52, it says the key to solving the conundrum posed by this judgment is in reading HBHG and DVC. HBHG is Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, and DVC is Davinci Code. That's how he delineated them in his judgment. If you would like to break the code yourself, now's your chance to click out. I was somewhat planning on doing that until I realized how in-depth this code actually is. It took somebody a while to break it. This isn't like a simple thing that he did, which just makes it infinitely funnier to me. Like, I actually don't think I'm going to be able to capture in this video how much joy this brings me. I think more judges should do this. I think we all need a little bit more whimsy in our lives. I think if the court case is ridiculous enough, the judge gets to throw something really silly in the judgment. So what does it mean? What does it say? What could the judge possibly have hidden in the most important court case of the century to decide whether or not you can copyright misinformation you're claiming is true? So this cipher is a type of polyalphabetic cipher, which I did look up, just means that you basically switch out the letters for other letters based off of a code, known as a variant Beaufort. What does that mean? Okay, hang on a minute. All right, so there's a Beaufort cipher here, which is a substitution cipher, but it should not, and let me make this very clear, should not be confused with the variant Beaufort cipher, and that's the one we care about. In variant Beaufort, encryption is performed by performing the decryption step of the, wait, what? In variant Beaufort, encryption is performed by performing the decryption step of the standard Vignere, I assume, cipher, and likewise, decryption is performed by using Vignere encryption. What? Okay, maybe we need to look at what the Beaufort cipher actually is to understand that. By the way, my degree's in computer science, so I should be able to wrap my brain around this. The Beaufort cipher is based on the Beaufort square, which is essentially the same as a Vignere square, but in reverse order, starting with the letters. Okay, the Vignere cipher, hang on. I promise once I figure this out, I'll break it all down in depth. The Vignere cipher is a method of encrypting alphabetic text where each letter of the plain text is encoded with a different Caesar cipher. Oh my god, guys, how many layered ciphers do we have here, whose increment is determined by the corresponding letter of another text, the key. In a Caesar cipher, each letter of the alphabet is shifted along some number of places. Okay, cool. We finally have a definition for one of these ciphers. In a Caesar cipher of shift 3, A would become D, B would become E, Y would become B, and so on. Okay, so a Caesar cipher is where you just offset it by a certain number of letters. So the Vignere cipher is where each letter of the plain text is encoded with a different Caesar cipher. Okay. Wait, I think my brain is starting to process this. So then a Beaufort cipher is similar to the Vignere cipher with a slightly modified enciphering mechanism and tableau. Two words that I definitely understand what they mean in isolation, but cannot process in this context. The Beaufort cipher is based on the Beaufort square, which is essentially the same as a Vignere square, but in reverse. So let's do this. Hang on. I should probably do it on here so you guys can see it. Okay, what should we cipher? This video has gone off the rails. To encrypt, first choose the plaintext character from the top row of the tableau. Okay, in cryptography, the tabula recta is a square table of alphabets, each row of which is made by shifting the previous one to the left. Oh, okay, I should have looked at that. Okay, cool. So it makes this like diagonal little chart here. Okay. Oh my god. Okay, wait. Okay. I'm getting it.
No, I did not, actually. But that's okay. I'll just come in and voiceover and correct myself.
So you find your plaintext letter at the top here, right? So if my first letter is T, and then if I gave it the key M, then it's saying T, go all the way down to the M column, and it would be F, would be the letter that I would actually put there.
I have it backwards. So what you would actually do is go down in the T column to where you would find the M, and then go all the way over to the left, and that's the letter. That's your code letter, I guess. So in this case, it would be U.
If we were doing a Beaufort cipher, but remember, this is not to be confused from the variant Beaufort. which we now need to figure out. Encryption is performed by performing the decryption step of the standard Vignere cipher. Okay, so it's just flipped. So why are they calling it a variant Beaufort? Why would it not be a variant Vignere? Why did I even have to learn about the Beaufort cipher? It's shifted by 14 positions in the alphabet because of the first letter of the key. Watch this all just be if I had just read more on the Wikipedia page about, wait, where did my Wikipedia page go about the original code? Okay, the good news is no, the Wikipedia page actually doesn't make any more sense than the other stuff we're reading here. But I think I'm getting the hang of this. I think I'm understanding. I think we're just going to do this. I think this is going to make way more sense than trying to read how they did it. Now that I've read from them how to do it, I never would have figured it out for myself. So there are the letters. This is really riveting content for you guys. Are you not entertained? And then 43 has Z and V. Does that get me to the end? Well, now how did that happen? Oh, they're just not spaced out. Okay, hang on. Okay, now what? So what do I do with these numbers? Guys, I'm really lost. So the variant Beaufort is the opposite of the Vignere cipher. The Vignere cipher was the one... So then do you just shift it? Is all of this just to shift it to the right instead of to the left? They said all that to just say go right instead of left. You would just do it backwards. All right, so they're saying the keyword is AAYCEHMU. And that corresponds with all these Fibonacci numbers. Where did they get those from? Because now I need to figure this out. This isn't even about the video. I don't care about you guys anymore. I need this for me. Here at the top, we have the code. Here underneath it are the corresponding paragraph numbers. And somehow we're supposed to end up with this keyword and this Fibonacci number sequence. And then we do something with it. I think we are ready to try and decode this. These are the paragraph numbers. I don't think we're going to end up needing them. Okay, guys, let's make this bigger. I feel like this is probably hard for you guys to see. I have never had to zoom in on Notepad++ before. Control, mouse wheel up. I'm not using a mouse. Notepad++ is like, you're definitely using a mouse. If you're using this program, you're using a mouse. So we're actually not going to give you a shortcut that doesn't need a mouse. Okay, whatever. Hopefully that's big enough. This is our passkey here. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I don't know how they got this. Like this right here. Because then you correspond it to the Fibonacci sequence and then you use that to decode this, like with these numbers. Also, I know 25 isn't in the Fibonacci sequence. They have a whole explanation for that too. This is actually a 25 instead of a 2. And they said that that was a hint from the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail. In some code it has in the book, the number 2 in the Fibonacci sequence means count 2 letters back in the regular alphabet than to count forward. So instead of the 2 being B, it's actually Y, I guess. So what we need to do now is basically go through each of these letters and we need to do this code backwards, where the increment is determined by the corresponding letter of another text, the key. So each letter of the alphabet is shifted along some number of places. So I think we just repeat this key over and over again. I guess we'll find out as we go if that's wrong. We need to take the S and shift it 1. That can't be right. I already know I've done this wrong because I looked at what the answer is. Oh, are we supposed to start after Smithy code? Okay, I don't think we start with Smithy code is what it is. Because the J, wait, but the solution starts with J. So does 1 mean don't move it at all? You don't shift it at all? That's not what that would mean to me. Let's see if that makes it right. If 1 means don't shift it, then J, it would stay A, and those are the first 2 letters of our solution. Okay, so for reasons unbeknownst to me, I guess 1 means don't increment at all. So we're starting here. Okay, we have J, A. So then E is 25. So we shift it by 25. No, but oh my God, that's why I keep getting this wrong. Guys, I was doing it again. A 1 means you increment to me in my brain. Okay, so it's E, F, G, H, I. Okay. Oh my God, we're so there. Well, hang on. I'm just going to look up numbers. So 17 is Q. Well, that doesn't seem right. I think we should get an E, but I'm on 20. Oh, I misunderstood what it meant when it said the T should be an H. Okay. Which means this is 8. So then if we count 8 from X, which is E. Perfect. Okay, we're getting there. G. No, it's gotta be F. I did it wrong again. It's a good thing I looked at what the answer was because I keep getting this wrong. So then 10. J. It's I. Come on, Meredith. The 1 means you don't increment. You can do this. They said there should be a Z at the end of the code. Did I get that right? Yeah, they were talking about the cipher, not the code. Come on, I'm stressed out enough about this. Okay, so we're back to 1, which means it's just S. And then that's T. And this is the one it's saying should be H. So this is where he messed it up. Why am I doing that? I could just show you the answer. But at this point, like I said, I'm too far in. Okay, wait. So this one's 25. And it's from G. So I actually need to count 24 forward because they're wrong about how to increment things. I need 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It better be an E or I'm gonna riot. Woo! Okay, we've done it. We've cracked it. Pinterest? Okay. At this point, why the hell not? Let's get Pinterest involved. Or I guess not. I just need this photo, please. 13 from C would be 16, which is P. No, I know that's not right, though. What just happened? I was getting this. G is number 7. Did I do it again where I didn't increment it? G is 21. 7 plus 21 is 28. Minus 1 is 27. 1. So that's just R. E is also 1, so that's just E. A is 25. Huh? What? Why did I think that would work? Oh, that did work. It's probably the hard way to do that. I could have just counted. That's 19, but no, it's not. It's 18 because this code is stupid. I feel like I got off somewhere and this is going to end up being wrong at the end. And then they did say that he messed it up and there was a letter missing from the end, so there should be a T, and we already fixed the one in the middle. So then this is the answer. This is the solution. And we did get there eventually. Jackie Fisher, who are you? Dreadnought. So what does that mean? Jackie Fisher was a British admiral. He was a driving force behind the development of the fast, all-big gun battleship and chairman of the Committee on Designs, which produced the outline design for the first modern battleship, the HMS Dreadnought. So it's Jackie Fisher, who are you, Dreadnought? So he is the British admiral that the judge really loved, that he put a little shout out to in this case. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb after doing all of that and say that this judge is definitely passionate about ciphers. I thought that with an explanation in front of me on how you were supposed to do this decoding, that I'd be able to figure it out fairly quickly. So hopefully you guys still think I'm smart after all this. More of this video is going to be me figuring out this code than me in Rome. But that's okay, because the Rome thing didn't make sense anyway. This video has been cursed from front to back. But I'll just go back to saying, he must have been geeked when he got assigned this case. Can you imagine? Imagine being passionate about ciphers and getting assigned a case about copyright infringement between the Davinci Code and Holy Blood and the Holy Grail. I just feel like this was probably Christmas morning for this judge, and I'm happy that he included such a fun little thing in the judgment. And I'll go back to what I said earlier, which is if the case is silly and funny enough, then I think that judges should be able to include a little bit of whimsy like this in their judgments. But I'm going to pass it back to me in Rome to finish out the video.
All right, let's take a lap around the Colosseum and then we're gonna head to our final location.
I lied. It was too cold, so I just came back to the hotel. This was really fun, though. Had a lot of fun traipsing around the city, seeing all the landmarks. But that's gonna be all for the video, you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!